that, we had done this launch, and now it became a time to really start to think of what was going to happen, how we were going to finish out the year, what we were going to do with the brand. We had some challenges with the attorneys on some things to where after we had launched, someone decided to come in and try and challenge some things. And, it got a little crazy and a little hectic, but we've got this idea and we've got this mission of what we're going to try and do. And we want to take it to where we've got these Torker lovers now that, they're 45 to 60 years old. They love their bikes. But how are we going to make Torker lovers for another 30 years? And not just Torker lovers, but BMX lovers. How do we get more kids involved in BMX? How do we get more people that love to ride? And the way that we do that is by trying to keep things fun. And that's been the whole aspect of where I really enjoy what we get to do with Supercross, and I really enjoy with what we're getting to do with Torker, because we're not putting pressure on ourselves to go have a #1 pro or to be a #1 team. We're putting pressure on ourselves to try and have the most fun and create the most long-lasting friendships, and to allow someone to be able to grab a bike and go ride and blow off a little bit of steam and just enjoy life. And again, that's where I mentioned earlier, hey, if you're some young kid that ended up turning into some weird old man talking about BMX bikes, go grab your bike, go get your bike, go have some fun, go meet those friends, go get those skills, go learn those life lessons, but really enjoy things. And life's way too short, so you've got to enjoy what you have with it. And what we're trying to do with Torker now is, while we're honoring the past, we're starting to bring things forward. And that's where this year at Dirty Fest 3, we're going to be introducing the first aluminum frames. And we've kind of skipped over a generation, and I'm not saying that we're skipping that generation, but we're taking it from the racer's perspective. And Torker was a race brand from 76 through 85, and then it became a freestyle brand. And then when you were involved and when you were on the Torker co-sponsor team, David, in like 1997, 98, 99, those eras, Torker was back to being a race company. They had Steve Veltman, they had Clarence Perry, they had Matt Hayden, they had all these great guys. And that's when the aluminum generation came in. And it's kind of weird because those aluminum Torkers were actually welded by Control Tech and then welded by SE. And it was funny when we started this whole project, I spoke with Sal, one of SE's old welders from when SE was on their 3rd generation or whatever. And, he had welded those Torker frames back then. And he's like, oh, Bill, we should really do some of these. And I'm like, oh yeah, Sal, that would be great. And I spoke with Todd Lyons a little bit, and it was funny because when I was speaking with him, he was like, oh, Bill, he goes, remember how bad those Torker forks used to bend? We should do some really cool Torker bikes, and we'll put some landing gears on them. We'll do a collaboration that way, which, again, was going back to why we made a fork change on some things. But it was like, okay, this is really cool. And seeing Veltman out at Mike Redmond's, reunion race and catching up with him, because, Veltman and I have been friends since he was a tech rider, long before I started Supercross, way back when, we've been great friends and known each other. And he's like, oh, Bill, that's really cool. You're doing Torker. You're doing aluminum one? Do you need a Vet Pro? And it's like, oh, man, that would be amazing. And we had Hayden, to where he was so shy and didn't want to come out to Dirty Fest, but he had such a good, fun time. And I'm like, wow. And I've been watching the way that the bikes have been selling. And the bikes that have been selling have been the bigger bikes. They've been the cruisers. And Veltman never rode a cruiser. Veltman, was always a 20-inch guy, and, he could bunny hop a brick wall or speed jump a brick wall. The way the guy rode. But Veltman, he's a 20-inch guy. Hayden, he was the cruiser champion, he was the man, he raced 20-inch, but man, he raced cruiser too. And it's like, how do I honor Matt? Before we started Supercross, when we had Tech, Matt had lost his ride from Diamondback, and I actually was going to try and start a frame company to give Matt a ride at that point. And that didn't happen, and some things happened, but we were trying. We've been friends for a long time, and I was like, Matt, I want to do this tribute frame for you. I want to do the diesel, and he's like, man, nobody's gonna want that. You can't do that. Nobody remembers who I am. But that's part of where we're pushing things forward, because now the kids that were 10, 11, 12, 13 in the late 90s and the early 2000s, they remember that era of Torker. And now they're in their 30s. They're 35 to 50 range. So now it's a lower demographic, and those guys, they're gonna, I don't want to give it away, but they're the ones who are gonna buy the Torker balance bikes for their kids when they're born. They're gonna buy the different little bikes to show, oh yeah, I was a huge Torker fan way back when, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna help carry this torch further, just like what we're doing with Supercross. We're trying to keep it all fun, and I know a lot of people ask me all the time, how do I keep the two separate? Well, the two have completely two separate identities, but I think at the same time, aside from having two separate identities, they're more similar than people think, because when I started Supercross, I had Tech running, and Supercross was going to become my frame company. Well, with Torker, they started a frame company and then started a clothing company, Mach, and we have both Torker and Mach in our house, and we have Supercross, and technically we still have Tech. It's my brand. We just don't do a whole lot with it yet, but it's a different era, and now we're starting to play on all these different eras, and to me, it's keeping fun for people. It's building BMX bikes. It's building bikes that anybody can go out and ride and grab their girlfriend, grab their wife, grab their kids, go ride, go to the track, go race, take a couple laps, go to the pump track, cruise along the Strand, cruise along the river walks, do something, but just get out and ride and enjoy life. Get away from those little screens and spend a lot of time with your friends. And that's something that I think gets lost on a lot of these generations nowadays, is that you're not finding people having these close friendships and these close bonds because they get so stuck behind that little window, and they don't know how to deal with people directly. And I think that's caused a lot of loneliness and a lot of depression for a lot of people, because they don't realize that there is a real world out there, and that there's a lot of great people out there, and that they're there to be your friend, and not everybody's going to be an enemy. Not everybody's going to try and attack you, and it's so great when you find a bunch of like-minded people that love to ride. And that's what it is with BMX, and mountain biking, which, or whatever, any type of cycling. But there's other ways of sports. I mean, you see it with car clubs, you see it with motorcycle clubs, you see it with, pickleball teams, you see it with, bowling teams or softball teams. It's a way to build a camaraderie. And our way of building that camaraderie is by trying to build the best BMX bikes that we can, and bring back that nostalgia and bring back that fun, and keep everybody riding on two wheels, and share the history and share the story, and let people know why. That's, again, I hate to keep referring back to that, but everybody knows the history of soccer. Everybody can tell you the stats of Pele or Messi, and everything through the years. Everybody can tell you the stats of football. Everybody can tell you the stats of baseball. But there's only a few people that can tell you the stats of BMX, and I really want to try and broadcast that. Gork has done such a great job with keeping that spreadsheet going of, pro wins and pro mains and pro podiums and all that stuff. But there's a lot of riders who didn't necessarily make it to pro and do good in pro. And there's others that, started off as bad amateurs and became great pros. But, you know, the whole big thing is that sport made it fun for us to go ride. It made us to enjoy the kinship. It made us enjoy the friendship, because for every superstar, there was 1,000 wannabes or hanger-oners or whatever you want to call them. And that's what I was. I mean, I sucked at racing. I mean, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I raced every chance I got, but I wasn't part of a privileged family that allowed me to travel to nationals. I mean, I remember driving to nationals, sleeping in the back of open bed pickup trucks or in the back of vans underneath the bikes, sleeping in my car at the races because I wanted to go. I wanted to be there, and I didn't have a way of getting there. And you build a lot of friendships that way. And, you know, you see a lot of that now with these music festivals, which are great. And that's what I love so much about Dirty Fest. You know, Mike calls it the BMX family reunion. I call it the world's largest fun festival. Nothing like taking all of your old friends, taking your bikes, having some fun out in the dirt, just enjoying everything about life and why BMX is great. And that's where I hope that this year you guys will come on out and you'll join us at Dirty Fest. It's June 6th, 7th, and 8th. And we've got a lot of cool things planned. We've already shown a couple little leaks on our YouTube channel of some of the new products that we have, but we've got some more stuff. And, you know, I'm not looking at just keeping Torker as a brand for a year or 2 years or 3 years and letting it go away. We're looking at taking that Torker legacy and building it to be one of the best BMX bicycle brands in the world. And it's a fun project, and I hope that you stick around and be a part of it, and that you like what we're doing, and come on out to Dirty Fest. Take a look at all the new stuff. Tell us what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Trust me, I hear that all the time too. But we've got a lot of fun stuff planned, and that's what it's all for, is it's all for fun. We're trying to do this to make this to where you have the most fun that you can possibly have. So come on along, come see us. In the meantime, you know how I always end all of our other videos. Grab your bike, get out, go ride. And I try to be quiet because I heard that I blew out your speakers earlier. So I was trying to keep it mellow, but damn it, guys, get your bike, grab it, go ride, grab your buddy, go out and have some fun. You never know how much fun you're going to have.